The SANPTENT Car Stereo is a great inexpensive option for owners who don't have the latest navigation technology already built into their vehicle. The device is a safer, more convenient way of using Waze or Google Maps on your phone to navigate while driving. Plus, it's a lot less expensive than replacing your aging entertainment system in your car. I take a look at the quality and the functionality of the SANPTENT device to see what you get for your money. We drive an older 2014 Nissan Pathfinder. It's just old enough that our base model didn't even come with a Bluetooth stereo. If we want to connect our phones to the car, you actually have to use a cable and auxiliary splitter that connects to a 3.5mm jack, and then use a USB adapter. What's more, the integrated screen has some very basic functionality, but at least it does have a rear view camera for reversing. For the longest time, we were using a cup holder mount to have our phones accessible for navigation and audio. However, after being spoiled recently while driving more modern rental cars with Android Auto actually integrated into the system, it was time to see if there was a solution that we could use to update our navigation needs that didn't cost thousands of dollars. With that in mind and a budget of around $100, I settled on the SANPTENT wireless dash mount portable car stereo on Amazon, and I have included a link in the description. It has largely good reviews, although there were a couple of negative ones which I cover off in this video. Here's a quick tour of what's inside the box. First and most importantly is the portable car stereo unit itself. I actually found it to be nicely designed, and a solid piece of kit, which is a positive starting point. You also get a separate rear camera and a 26.2 foot cable that is intended to be physically connected to the rear of your vehicle, all the way to the SANPTENT screen on your dashboard. I didn't bother with this as we already have a reverse camera on our Pathfinder, but it is an option for owners with even older cars than ours. You also get a 6.4 foot auxiliary audio cable, a 4.9 foot power cable, the dash mount bracket, and accompanying adhesive patch, along with the user manual. For my purposes, I'm focused on the main features of the SANPTENT device for using Waze and Google Maps for navigation, specifically how well Android Auto works compared to the more expensive solutions that I've used in the past. I'm most interested in the ability to connect the device via Bluetooth to my phone, the fidelity of the display, and the audio quality. As a secondary focus, the responsiveness of the capacitive touchscreen is also important, but I'm willing to compromise on the performance when taking into account the low price. The best way to view the unit is as a standalone basic computer with its own operating system. Just like more expensive in-car entertainment systems, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are installed on the hardware on top of the custom OS. You'll notice when first setting up that the SANPTENT operating system is the first screen you'll see. It's not ugly, but it's not pretty either, and weirdly features a permanent image of Katy Perry. I'm not sure Perry's team is aware of the endorsement, but it is what it is. Luckily, you don't have to spend any time worrying about any of the user interface as an Android Auto user. As soon as you've connected it to the unit via Bluetooth, you're prompted on your Android phone to use Android Auto, and it will automatically launch the familiar interface. This is also true every time you turn on your car after installation, with a few exceptions. After a minute, the display will automatically switch to Android Auto, providing you have the settings switched on in the app. The only feature in the unit not controlled by Android Auto is the brightness setting for night driving, but I'll cover that off later in this video. Audio playback is managed by either using the long supplied audio cable, which you can plug into a compatible port on your vehicle stereo, or you can use the built-in FM transmitter that you use to tune in your car stereo to have the audio playback as if you're listening to a radio station. The first decision is where to place the unit. We already have an existing built-in screen which supports the backup camera, so I didn't want to obscure it. One thing to note is that depending on the model of your car, placing it on top of the dashboard will require a little bit of stretching back and forth to operate it. The bracket itself does have the necessary holes to screw this into the dashboard if permanent modification of your car isn't a concern for you. However, the adhesive pad that comes with the unit features industrial level strength, holding the plastic base in place with ease. Again, depending on your vehicle, your dash might not be perfectly level. Our Pathfinder's dash is slightly curved, so I was worried that it was going to adversely affect the ability of the bracket to stay stuck to the dashboard. However, I'm delighted to say that after many weeks of use, the bracket is still firmly attached, even after removing and replacing the screen many times. One thing to note is the back of the unit uses a slide and hook solution to attach the screen. There's no quick release catch or button, so I find I have to wobble it out of the bracket every time I'm going to remove the screen to store it. The unit doesn't have a battery and requires power to operate it. The supplied USB-C power cable is sufficiently long that it should reach any 12-volt outlet for nearly any model of vehicle with ease. Similarly, if you prefer to use a wire to connect the unit to your audio system, the supplied cable is more than long enough. One tip I have for people buying this device is to invest in little cable management clips that you can install to tidy up the trailing excess cable. Once installed and powered on, it's a very straightforward setup to connect to Android Auto. Just make sure you have the app installed on your phone first. Depending on the age and model of your phone, it'll already be part of the Android OS. On my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, it's part of the phone's settings rather than being a separate app. If your phone is older and using Android 9 or below, you can download the Android Auto app from the Play Store instead. The SANPTENT unit is already in Bluetooth discovery mode, so all you have to do is search and connect to it via your phone's Bluetooth settings. Once you have a connection, your phone will automatically prompt you to complete the installation process on the unit's screen. If you're new to Android Auto and using Waze or Google Maps, I suggest you check out my other recent videos. My first concern was whether placement on the dashboard would obscure my driving view. However, the long, low profile of the unit and short bracket means that it resides in place without getting in the way. The screen bezels are nice and slim, so it gives a nice modern aesthetic, which is a nice surprise given the price of the unit. It's definitely a lot more attractive than I thought it would be in person. The overall design is impressive. The long but short screen nicely divides up the navigation and audio app, switching between the two at the touch of the screen, depending on which is most important to you at the time. I'm delighted to say I found the device works seamlessly with both Waze and Google Maps for navigation via Android Auto. Again, for the price point, I was expecting either issues with the screen quality or maybe some kind of device lag. However, I can report that the unit operates as expected. The touchscreen has a fast response time, which I believe has a lot to do with the fact it supports Bluetooth 5.2. Combined with my high-end S23 Ultra, it means the data transfer between the unit and my phone is about as fast as you can get. It's worth noting that this might be one area where users with older phones might experience some kind of lag, as reported by some of the Amazon reviews. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay devices are only displays, which use your phone as the brains for the functionality. Older, slower hardware using legacy Bluetooth technology will invariably experience slower performance as the data transfer back and forth from the screen might be delayed. This is also an important factor for using Google Assistant or Siri, so you can enjoy hands-free control. In fact, using voice control instead of touching the screen is my recommended way to use the device, saving you from having to reach out and touch the screen. I much prefer to use voice control to have Google Assistant manage my commands for finding directions and controlling audio playback. Providing the cabin noise isn't too loud and your phone and its microphone are unobscured, the experience is pretty seamless. One area for improvement or update is the fact that while you can connect multiple phones to the device, it will get a little confused if both phones are within Bluetooth range when starting your car. Most times it will successfully connect to the last used phone, however on occasion it won't automatically launch Android Auto. It then requires some manual help by tapping Phone Link to reconnect your phone. The device will self-correct and connect to the nearest phone when you drive out of range of the other device, but most users will want to have everything set up before they start pulling away. This is more of a problem with families and couples who share the same vehicle, but again, it's a bug I'm willing to overlook for the price point. The screen itself features a pleasing resolution and it's bright too. In fact, at night it's a little too bright, which brings me on to one setting you have to manually change in the options menu. Even with the day and night mode switched on so that Android Auto switches to a darker theme to reduce light noise, the screen is very distracting. If you navigate back to the device's main OS, at the top of the screen you can tap on the sun icon and cycle between the full brightness for daytime driving, lower brightness for nighttime driving, or off completely. If you do turn off the screen, the audio functions still work, so it's an option if you simply want to minimize any light pollution in your cabin. As mentioned earlier, audio is relayed from your phone to the device via the Bluetooth connection. The device does have a built-in speaker, but it's rather underwhelming and quite hard to hear, especially if you're playing music via your car stereo. You can use the cable that comes with the device. It will feed the audio directly into any compatible auxiliary port on your vehicle, so that it plays back through the vehicle speakers, which provides much better quality. However, the SANPTENT unit also supports FM transmission. Here you can choose between 6 preset frequencies. You then tune your car stereo using the radio function into one of the frequencies for playback, as if you're listening to a radio station. Setting up this way alleviates the need for an extra cable, making your cabin a little tidier. I did notice that one review reported the audio dropping using the FM transmitter. One reason for this could be that the radio stations in your local area may be on the same frequency. Luckily, you can make adjustments and refine the frequency manually by dragging your finger along the display. When it is successfully connected using the FM transmitter, the audio sounds perfect to me. I didn't notice any interference and the audio was loud and clear. My final note on performance is how stable and secure the unit is in its bracket. I was half expecting more wobbling from the device on the road. As it turns out, even with moderate road vibration, the unit doesn't shake itself loose. The adhesive pad really does a good job of holding everything in place securely. Overall, for $120 at the time of this video, if you're looking for a modern, inexpensive solution to make your aging vehicle a little smarter, I would definitely recommend this device. The low profile, its more than adequate performance, plus the remarkably secure bracket make it a worthwhile purchase. I don't actually feel like you're making any real compromises for the price point. If I did have to make improvements, there are 2 I would include in any future design updates. One would be a quick mount and quick release feature for the bracket. Instead of having to wiggle the unit free, a button lock or a release for the device would be much better. Long term, wiggling to insert and release the screen may affect the stability of the unit in the bracket. Also, the inclusion of a battery to enable you to use the device without being plugged into a main supply would be a great option for shorter trips. If the screen lasted for a few hours, even with the giant power-hungry display, it would be better than having to connect it via a cable for every drive. Apart from that, the stereo really does everything you need it to as an Android Auto device. Thank you for watching, and as always, it would be great if you were to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more content on personal technology and the connected home.